All right, guys, I'm joined here today by Tyson Chartier, the head of Top Game Management and leader of the New England Cartel. Tyson, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Got a little bit of jet lag, but I'll take that. We're coming home with a win.
A lot of flying for you in the last 2 weeks. I mean, you must be mentally drained, physically drained, but I mean, like you said, came home for a win, must feel good.
Yeah, man. It was like 6 hours to Vegas, 15 hours to Abu Dhabi, 16 hours back, and then another 6 hours. It's pretty much flew around the world. So, but we always say like the cities and the trips are only as bad as the performance. So we came home with a big win. So the flights were fun.
Absolutely. And so I had it ranked. I had it scored 4-1 for Kattar. There's always, when it goes to the judges, we saw it with Holloway versus Volkanovski. There's always some sort of anxiety. I mean, I would say that was pretty easily a Kattar win, but was there any nerves, coming from you, coming from Calvin?
I had nerves going into the fourth round when in between the rounds because I knew we won. We won the first for sure. The second, I was like, ooh, that was a close one.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, I'm like, I'm pretty sure we won, but you never know. So going into the
Exactly.
fourth, Calvin's like, what round are we at? And I said, we're going into the fourth. And he's like, where are we at? I go, I don't know, man, maybe 2-1, but one, I don't know. Like judges are weird. So we got to win the next two. And then, we went into the coaching. And, but it was interesting because going into the fourth round, I looked up on the Jumbotron. I started seeing all the tweets playing on the broadcast. And everybody, like, I looked up real quick and I told the jiu-jitsu coach, because it was mostly Sin, I was like, hey, read those. Let me know what they're saying. And then everyone was saying 3-1 Kattar, 3-1 Kattar, 3-1 Kattar. So I knew we were pretty much winning. And honestly, that actually affected how we coached because I'm like, all right, well, if everybody's got us winning 3-1, we don't need to take risks, but let's go for a finish in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's crazy. Those tweets actually kind of helped us.
Yeah, absolutely. The new to the UFC, new to the broadcasting is adding those tweets in. So UFC Island, obviously must have been great. Speak on the sleep schedule. That seems to be a topic that everyone's been talking about. I mean, the fights for, someone like me who's right outside of Boston started at, 10 p.m., normal for me. But for you, it's, 6, 7 in the morning that you're getting up to go fight. What's that like?
Yeah, so right when we got the fight booked, I looked at what time the fight was playing, and originally they had the main card at 6 p.m. here instead of 10. So I called the UFC and I said, listen, I want to confirm exactly what time the main card starts, and so we can know what time we're fighting. And so I figured out the main card actually was at 10, not 6. That's a 4-hour swing, obviously. So which means that the main card wasn't starting until 6 a.m. local time. So there's two things I wanted to work on there, because we only had a month to train, So there's two things that I wanted to get done. One was I wanted to make sure that we were training on the world clock. So a couple of nights a week, we trained at like 11:30 or 12, which is 8 a.m. local time for when we were fighting. So that was like on the world clock time. We were fighting at the same, training at the same time. But then another thing I wanted to do was train 2 times like earlier in the day, like a few hours after we woke up. And because of the pandemic, we've been kind of, blessed where we can train at like 11 every day. All the coaches are available. So Calvin, can kind of wake up at 8 or 9 and then just cruise into training at 11. Not a big deal. Or even if we did afternoon sessions. So either way, we wanted 2 mornings where we were training hard in the morning. So we did our strength and conditioning a little bit earlier than we normally would have, just to make sure we're getting a good hard push in the morning to kind of mimic fighting a few hours after we wake up. Because right when I found out that the main card was starting at 8, I was like, well, we're clearly not going to be nocturnal, sleep all day, and then try to make 8 a.m. the end of our day. I was like, it's not super realistic, especially with the media schedule. And, sometimes they throw curveballs at you and they make you get on different calls or, USADA and what have you. So we determined pretty quickly, I got on calls with the UFC and the PI staff. And, I had a hunch of what I wanted to do, but I wanted to run it across what they recommended. And, my plan was I think we should go to bed at 7 o'clock every night and get up at 3. And then every morning train at 7 a.m. Because that's kind of when we get to the locker room, you get your warm up and then you fight at 8. So that's what we did, and we had Calvin prepared for that going into it. It's like, here's what we're going to do on fight week. So he was kind of mentally prepared for it. But then also like the importance of not napping during the day. So he would be tired at 7 to actually go to sleep. So it took us a few days, but, he was really disciplined on not napping and he got right on the schedule right away. And so on fight day, we were basically sleeping 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. every day, and then kind of getting up, chilling, hanging out, eating breakfast, and then work out at 7. And then on fight day, he got up at I got up at probably 2:30, and then waited for him, and then we woke him up at like 10 past 3, and then we kind of just started watching the fights. He ate some breakfast and stuff, and we kind of hung out, and then our call time was at 5:40 a.m. and I think we fought around 8. So it was pretty smooth. Like, we'd been there a week already doing the same thing. And I don't really think the sleep affected his performance too much. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, the fighters look slow, they look tired. I think the thing they're not factoring in is it was 120 degrees every day with like 80% humidity. So
Yeah.
everybody was, I know us, we were coming in 3 or 4 pounds lighter once we got there, just because it's hard to stay hydrated. So I think maybe a little bit of that, the heat index and the humidity was kind of taking a toll on people more than probably the time change, but maybe that's just our camp.
Yeah. And like you said, like that's something that's not even being talked about is how, how hot it is walking into the building. But so, obviously wasn't a knockout, but a 5-rounder. Dan Ige 0 for 9 on takedowns. Kattar's cardio looked amazing. Everyone knew that Kattar had the boxing. He's one of the most pure boxers in the sport. Was it almost better to see him go all 5 rounds and prove his cardio, prove his takedown defense, and prove all that stuff that maybe not all of us knew about?
Well, I think there's pros. Obviously, we smash him in the first round, and then a lot of people are probably calling for a title shot. I think you get that heat that way. But I think long term, maybe short term, it would have been cool if we got out there and just got a quick finish. Now he's got 5 finishes, and he's the big scary guy in the 45-pound division. He's the new dark horse. Let's leapfrog everybody and fight for title. And I'm not saying that can't happen still, because there's a lot of people inactive and other matchups to happen. But I think from a long term about progressing Calvin and making him more confident and developing him as a fighter from a coaching standpoint, I think that this was a good situation for us. 5 rounds. He dealt with a little adversity. He banged up his nose in the first round. His hands were a little banged up. So he got to fight 3 rounds with sore hands. A month notice, got to go 5 rounds against one of the grittier guys that's known for chipping away and breaking people. And a decent wrestler. So I think he answered a lot of the questions. Yes, he does have good takedown defense. Yes, he is a headliner where he can fight in the 4th and 5th round. And he was dominant in the 4th and 5th round. There was no question about that. Like we ran away with the fight in the 4th and 5th round. And then he dropped him. It's hard to tell, but if you look at the last 10 seconds when he threw that flying switch knee, like that hit Danny Gay's eye and he fell on his face, and then we went, winning ground and pound. So, with 10 seconds left, he's still dropping the kid. And so I think he answered a lot of questions that, number 1, he's got good wrestling. Number 2, he's got good cardio. Number 3, he's a legitimate headliner that can win the 4th and the 5th round. And now this is making everybody revisit the Zabit fight, saying, oh, he definitely would have won the Zabit fight if it went to the 4th round. So I think there was pros from it. The cons were we didn't get a finish. All right, that's fine. But moving forward, he's going to have so much more confidence, so much more time. Us as coaches got 4 cycles in between rounds to make adjustments and coach him and get that practice. He got to make adjustments on the fly in 5 rounds instead of just 1, and he got to deal with a little bit of adversity. So I think from a growth standpoint, moving down the road, this fight's going to pay dividends in his career.
Absolutely. And like you said, inactivity, you look at the top 5. Number 5 is Yair. He had a decision win over Jeremy Stevens back at UFC Boston, which feels like 4 years ago because 2020 has been like 5 years long, but was right at the end of 2019. Korean Zombie had a KO over Frankie Edgar in 2019. Ortega hasn't fought since the end of 2018. Zabit, obviously, with the Kattar fight, which, again, like most of us think, if that goes 5 rounds, maybe a very different decision. So these, Kattar's not only 2-0 in 2020, he's 2-0 during this pandemic. All these other guys haven't even fought. Besides Holloway and Volkanovski, obviously. So, I mean, who's next? I mean, I think there's a legitimate claim that Kattar could be next in line for a title shot with his activity if Volkanovski wants to get back in there.
Yeah, I think a lot of that plays on Volkanovski and what direction the UFC wants to go. If the UFC really wants to have that trilogy fight with Max, there's not much we can say about that. If Alex really wants to stay busy and Max isn't on that same timeline, we're the next logical guy because we're active. We're the only fighter that's gone 2-0 since the pandemic started. So there's not a hotter fighter than us right now. We got the most wins over top 10 since 2019 in the featherweight division. We've got 2 wins since the pandemic. No one else in the top 5 even has a win this year. So I think we have a good case for it. A lot of that is going to fall in Volkanovski's lap and the UFC's lap. But obviously, we're ready to fight for a title. We've shown that we can go 5 rounds. We showed that we're willing to step up on short notice, and that we're worthy of the opportunity, and that we'll do good. But yeah, these other guys that I said this before the fight. A lot of people are giving me heat for taking this fight. Number 6 fight, the number 11 now is number 10. But why would you fight backwards? It's like, well, listen, someone's always fighting backwards. And if we have the chance to take the bull by the horns and control our own destiny, we're going to do that. It's okay, fight Dan Ige, the number 10 guy on July 15th, or sit around and wait. But wait for who? When you look at the top 5, none of them are busy. They're all just Twitter beefing, talking about who they're going to fight, but nothing's really signed. No one's really 100% confirmed, it seems. So what are we going to do? Wait for one of those guys to not confirm with us as well? And then we're going to end up fighting back anyway. So we might as well just control our own destiny, take the bull by the horns. All right, we've got Dan Ige, number 10. Let's go beat him and earn another big opportunity. And, obviously the risk paid off. And, I believed in Calvin 100% that he'd be able to handle Ige decisively. And he did that. So, I think we're in a good spot right now.
Absolutely. And so, the trilogy probably, we don't know. You don't know what the UFC is going to happen. But in Volkanovski's case, why would he fight for a third time? He risks everything for little reward. So with Max being there, at the number 1 contender spot, I mean, would that be a fight? I mean, I didn't get excited by that fight. I think everyone would. Would that be something that Calvin would look for somewhat quick of a turnaround, and Max wants to get back in there and have that be a headliner?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the direction they want to go, like, we're here to take them all out. So, just has to make sense timeline-wise. Calvin obviously couldn't fight next week. His hands were a little banged up, and he's got some healing to do. But nothing that, he shouldn't be able to get back to work in a couple weeks. I mean, he went running this morning. So, we're not against fighting, late summer, early fall, getting in there in a few months again, 2-3 months and getting another fight. Because our goal at the beginning of the year was 3-0 in 2019, and we still have an opportunity to do that. So, if it ends up being Max, that'd be great. I think he's the GOAT of the division. There's not much, you can't fight a tougher guy, and I think going into that fight, you beat him, that's almost like winning a title. You go and beat Max Holloway. He's beating everybody. He's, it'd be an honor to share the cage with him. He comes from a great team, a good group of guys. He's a likable guy, but, at the end of the day, it's business. And if we have to go out there to beat him to get the title shot, that's what we're going to have to do.
Absolutely. And so, obviously during the broadcast, you may not have heard it, but or maybe you have because there's no fans, but John Anik was praising you and the New England Cartel and Top Game Management, and just, Ali Abdelaziz was tweeting about how respectful of a team Tyson Chartier has. And I mean, people, journalists on the local scene, we've known this for a long time, how great of a team you guys have. But, to get it on, a national stage like that with hundreds of thousands of people watching, I mean, that's got to feel good.
Yeah, man, it's a little bit of validation, people realizing what we already know. It's not cocky. Like, I just know, like, you look at what Calvin and Rob are doing and some of the, those are the 2 guys that I coach, and you look at how good they are and how they're role models to other fighters. And I think we're really laying a blueprint of how, fighters can train not being at a mega camp, and the amount of care we put into them, bringing in the right coaches, me, calling shots when I need to, letting other coaches run with it when it makes sense. And, just letting these guys, trust in the process and building a process that's continually evolving, that we're trying to get better. There's a lot of things that we did last camp that we're not going to do next camp because we think we could be better. So I think it's good to hear those things. I don't need to hear those to know that what we're doing is working. We got numbers next to our names and clearly it's working, but it's good, man. Anek's a Boston guy, and he pulled us aside on fight week and he was just telling us, he's really proud of what we're doing, and that, he's the one that coined the whole Boston's 15 thing. He's like, I feel like I got a 15 in Boston that we can cheer for now. Someone in the MMA is a legitimate title contender. And so, our team's obviously doing something right. I'm putting 100% effort into this and trying to do everything that I can to learn from other coaches that I respect, and even learn from the coaches that I don't respect of what not to do. And just keep making these guys better, because that's what they deserve, man. Every time they step in the cage, someone's trying to take half their money and put staples in their head. So I take it very serious. I do a lot of prep work ahead of time. I try to benchmark. I try to, learn from other people's mistakes the best I can. So that way, as we, keep getting closer to our goals, we have a good chance of winning.
Absolutely. And you do a great job at it. So one other guy in Top Game Management that's been very vocal, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, is Devin Powell. Devin Powell, last fought in Bellator. He used to fight in the UFC. He's the free agent right now. Obviously, Bellator just announced that their home camp is going to be Mohegan Sun for the next, month or two. Have they reached out at all? I mean, it makes sense to have Powell last fought at Mohegan Sun. Have they reached out at all? And what's next for Powell?
Yeah, I talked to Richard and Dane, and originally the cards that they had, like, they had already had all the cards pretty much planned out when they announced they were coming to Mohegan. So, we had talked, and I was like, listen, here's what I got. I got all these guys. They're all fighting at the bit to go. And, we went through different people and just explained that we're ready to go. And they said, right now the cards are full. And then as things change and people get hurt and stuff, they'll have openings. So I'm like, listen, keep these guys at the tip of your tongue because like, we're ready to go. It'd be nice to see Evan be able to get back in there. He had that really, really good win that last time. It was exciting. He put the guy to sleep at the end of, I think it was the end of the second. And Kevin McDonald defended the guy's takedown after. It got a lot of views on TMZ and ESPN. So it'd be nice to get Devin back in there and get him on a win sheet because that kid, he's so much more talented than his UFC career showed. And I think people finally got to see his jiu-jitsu in a fight. The kid's got some really, really impressive jiu-jitsu, but in the UFC, he kind of got caught in that rut of like, oh, I just got to bang with people. That's what the UFC wants. And no, man, yeah, maybe they want some exciting fights, but your last fight was exciting and you used jiu-jitsu. So I'm excited to see him kind of evolve as a fighter and get back to that.
Absolutely. And my last question for you, as Boston's fifth team, what Boston team are you looking forward to coming back? Next week got the Red Sox on, Bruins are coming back, Celtics, and then hopefully the Patriots in another month or two. So, who are you most looking forward to coming back?
It's always football, man. I used to be a big Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins fan, and growing up, always been a Patriots fan. But now it's like this takes up so much of my life. It's like I feel like if you ask my wife, I don't spend enough time with my kids because I'm focused on MMA so much. So like, I don't have time for anything other than MMA, my family, and then the Patriots. So I'm all in on the Patriots. I love them. I don't miss a single game. I play fantasy football. I'm not that good at it, but yeah, man, I'm excited for the Pats to come back. I'll be really bummed if we don't have football this year. So yeah, man, we got to get the Patriots on board with the Cartel, though. Like we should be, I look at freaking some of these other cities. They're bringing the UFC fighters in to sit on the sidelines during games, and we're over here just watching from home. So I think these guys got small enough numbers next to the name and big enough wins. We're headlining UFC cards and Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. I think we can go sit on the sideline in the Patriots game and shake Bob Kraft's hand.
Absolutely, and Rob Kraft's been, he's been in a couple of UFC fights, so makes sense. He watches. So, all right, Tyson, thank you very much. Congratulations on the big win, and looking forward to what's next for you guys.
Appreciate it, bro.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyson.